Peter lived in a small village, where he was a well-known shepherd among the people. He was recognized for his healthy flock of sheep, their smooth wool, and his careful attention to their well-being. However, despite his talents, Peter had a major problem. He never woke up early. Peter frequently delayed his mornings, burying himself in his warm blanket instead of getting up early to herd the sheep. He missed the best time of the day to graze them, causing the fresh morning grass to go to waste and leaving the sheep without sufficient exercise. He also missed important village meetings, where major decisions impacting the community's future were made. Worse still, due to his tardiness and negligence, Peter's sheep often wandered into the forest, forcing him to spend hours searching for them. Some sheep got injured after falling off cliffs or being threatened by wild animals. The villagers began to worry about his irresponsibility, and even his father grew disappointed in his lack of discipline. Despite receiving advice from his father and the village elders, Peter always justified himself by saying, "Why does it matter? As long as I get the work done. Isn't the moon bright enough at night? Why does everyone keep bothering me about this?" But in reality, the world does not wait for anyone, and Peter's tardiness not only affected his flock, but also put him in dangerous situations. Because he failed to graze them on time, the sheep suffered from malnutrition, and some wandered into the dense forest, facing threats from predators. The villagers gradually lost trust in him, and even his father stopped assigning him important responsibilities. Peter was not just losing his job, he was losing his future and the faith of his community. One day, the village chief gave Peter an important task: to lead the flock up the mountain to provide wool for the winter market, the biggest event of the year. The next morning, the village chief and the market organizers arrived at Peter's pasture, but the sheep had not been herded yet, and Peter was still asleep in his warm bed. The chief frowned, gripping his wooden staff tightly in frustration. He had warned Peter many times, yet he remained unchanged. "This is unacceptable. We entrusted him with a crucial task, and he still takes it lightly," the chief said angrily. "We can't wait any longer. Give the job to Ethan," suggested an elder. Ethan, a young but punctual and responsible shepherd who had never delayed any task, immediately took over. Under his guidance, the sheep were herded up the mountain on time, ready for the winter market. When Peter finally woke up, the sun was already high. He rubbed his eyes, rushed outside, and was horrified to see that the flock had been taken by someone else. His one and only opportunity to sell wool at a high price was completely lost. The village chief stood there, looking at Peter with cold eyes. "Do you realize what you've lost? Not just money, but the trust of this entire village." Peter stood frozen. Regret washed over him. But at this point, there was no way to change the past. He had lost the most valuable opportunity of the year, all because of a bad habit he had refused to fix. Peter turned to his grandfather for advice. Seeing Peter's disappointment, his grandfather told him a story. Once upon a time, in a dense forest, two creatures lived side by side, the bee and the cicada. The bee always woke up early as soon as the sun rose, beginning a day of tireless work. It flew from flower to flower, diligently collecting every drop of nectar to store in its hive, building a strong reserve of food. When the first cold winds of winter arrived, it had enough supplies to survive without worrying about hunger or freezing. The cicada, on the other hand, had a completely opposite habit. It loved sleeping in the shade of the trees and only woke up when the sun was already high in the sky. While other creatures busied themselves with work, the cicada lazily lounged on a branch, carelessly singing its songs. It leaped around the forest, enjoying the cool breeze and warm sunlight, never thinking about tomorrow. As others prepared food for winter, it laughed and said, "Why worry? Life is meant to be enjoyed. I'll think about it when the time comes." When winter arrived, the bee had stored plenty of honey and stayed warm in its hive. The cicada, however, had no food left, shivering in the cold, regretting not working as hard as the bee. Peter finally woke up to reality, realizing that if he didn't change, he would continue to live in failure and regret. He started by setting his alarm earlier each day. Although he initially struggled to leave his warm bed, He forced himself to get up as soon as the alarm rang. Every morning, Peter woke up earlier, leading his flock to the pastures at sunrise, ensuring they had enough fresh grass and exercise. He also took this time to observe and learn from the best shepherds in the village, gaining valuable experience. Peter's remarkable transformation didn't go unnoticed. The villagers who once mocked him now looked at him with different eyes. Gradually, even the village chief acknowledged his efforts. One day, he approached Peter and said, "Peter, I see you've changed. You're no longer the irresponsible, tardy young man. You deserve a second chance." From that day on, the chief began entrusting Peter with more significant tasks. The villagers started relying on him, asking him to help take care of their livestock when they were busy. No one mocked him anymore. Instead, they greeted him every morning, smiling as they saw him herding his flock at dawn. When winter arrived, Peter's sheep were healthier than ever. Their thick, smooth wool became a valuable source of income at the market. The village chief, with a proud smile, declared, "Peter, you have become one of the finest shepherds in the village. We need people like you to keep our community prosperous." Peter not only regained his honor, but also earned the love and respect of the entire village. He realized that with determination and effort, anyone could change their fate.